video 4 of the Landcruiser Project series. In this video I'm going to be addressing a lot of the driveline issues that the Landcruiser Ute has, and luckily I have a parts car, so I'm going to utilise as many of those parts as I can.
The first issue that I've temporarily fixed is the rear brakes. You can see here I have a hose clamp on the rear hydraulic brake line, and that is because I'm completely missing my passenger rear brake caliper and handbrake mount. So I've rigged that up so I have half a handbrake, and the hose clamp is simply to stop hydraulic fluid just leaking everywhere. So we'll address this in the future. Next issue is the rear diff pinion seal. So as you can see here, it's all chewed up behind the companion flange, and the oil seal is also leaking. Apparently that happened when fencing wire wrapped around the drive shaft and it just chewed everything up. Luckily I have a limited slip diff in the Troopy, so I'm going to utilise the diff center and I'll swap those out. At the other end of the drive shaft you can see we've got a similar problem. There's damage behind the companion flange and the transfer box rear seal is leaking oil. You can see it is becoming quite a problem. The troop carrier has the same transfer box, so I should be able to change out the rear of the cover, and that will address all of the rear wheel drive issues that the Ute has. Using this high lift jack, I can quickly lift the rear of the vehicle. I can then spin one of the rear tyres. If they spin in opposite directions, you have an open diff. If they spin in the same direction like this, you have a limited slip diff. And if they don't spin at all, or there's a loud metallic noise, you have a damaged or malfunctioning diff. You can quickly identify the type of diff and the condition of it. Be very careful with high lift jacks. The vehicle can become unstable, and avoid getting underneath the vehicle. With the Ute supported on ramps and the wheels chocked, I drain the rear diff oil. Then I remove the drive shaft between the back of the transfer box and diff. This can be done with a basic socket and spanner set and some penetrating fluid for rusty and stubborn bolts. The impact wrench is a luxury, but you can also substitute a breaker bar in its place. I then drain the transfer box oil. At this point I had access to the rear and pinion seal, which were both leaking. You can see me remove the rear diff center, and this is only possible with the solid axles protruding from or completely removed from the wheel hubs. This is difficult, but once you've adjusted the tapered cone washers, it just gets easier from there. With the diff housing cleaned, I apply gasket sealant. Then I can install the diff center that I sourced from the tube carrier. It's important that when you tighten the nuts, you do them in opposing pairs, not a clockwise order, as this can result in uneven tension across the diff housing and possibly a leak. Before you reinstall the solid axles, it's a good opportunity to grease the wheel bearings. I'll be doing this at a later stage, which involves more vehicle maintenance. If there is enough interest, I'll make a video of the entire removal process of the solid axles, including how to adjust the tapered cone washers, which can be quite stubborn, and how to initially break the hub gasket seal using bolts. Gasket sealant was used once again, and I tightened the nuts in opposing pairs, not a clockwise order. I avoid using impact tools on the studs as they are small and can be broken with relatively little force. I replaced the rear of the transfer box case with a part once again sourced from the tube carrier. The gasket was in good condition, and once I tighten the bolts, I can reinstall the companion flange, which contains the rear seal for the transfer box. This will address the major leak from before. Whenever removing or reinstalling a companion flange, make sure you count the exact number of revolutions required to remove the nut, as there is a crush sleeve behind it, and both diffs have a backlash calibration, so you must return the torque settings to factory spec. It's also good practice to do this for your gearbox and transfer box as well. Now that I have addressed the pinion and rear seal, I can reinstall the drive shaft. Then I will bolt the splitter cable back onto the side of the transfer box. Once I've checked all bolts are tight, I can move on to the last job. Finally, I'm going to fill up the transfer box and rear diff with gear oil. I start by tightening the drain plug. I have enough clearance around the rear diff to lift the bottle up and pour the oil into the inspection hole. However, the transfer box requires me to use the syringe to push the oil in. You know they are full when the oil comes out of the inspection hole. Then fit the bung or plug and tighten firmly. Check for leaks and you are done.
That's part 1 of episode 4 of the Landcruiser Project Build series. If you have any questions, leave a comment. In episode 2, we're going to address the front diff and 4-wheel drive system. Until then, like, subscribe. I'll catch you later.